6 years. 6 years of showing up early, of working hard, of doing everything right. And every single year, success felt exactly as far away as the year before. Not because he was lazy, not because he lacked the talent, because he was spending all of his energy running in a direction that was never going to take him where he actually needed to go. Most people reading his situation from outside would have told him to keep going. Stay the course. Trust the process. The Stoics would have told him something different. They would have told him that the way he was running, the desperate, anxious, breathless way he was chasing what he wanted, was the precise reason it kept moving away from him. There is a law operating beneath every successful life ever built. Most people spend their entire lives running against it and calling the exhaustion a lack of opportunity. That law, and the 5 shifts that put it to work for you instead of against you, is what this video is about. Psychologist Abraham Maslow spent decades studying the most successful and fulfilled human beings he could find. One finding appeared consistently across every single one of them. They were not attached to outcomes in a desperate way. They were committed to their work, but they were not controlled by their results. That distinction, between committed and desperate, is the difference between a life that pulls success toward it and a life that perpetually chases it. The research that followed Maslow confirmed this at every level. Studies across entrepreneurship, creative performance, and professional achievement consistently find the same pattern. Individuals operating from anxiety, from the breathless, tight, obsessive energy of someone who needs this to work, make measurably worse decisions, accept worse deals, speak with less authority, attract fewer genuine opportunities. Not because the universe rewards calm people, because the state of desperation physically and neurologically compromises every capability the person possesses. History confirms this at the highest levels. Napoleon, one of the most tactically brilliant minds in military history, squandered the final chapter of his career in a frantic, desperate scramble to recapture what he had already built. The man who had patiently, methodically constructed an empire destroyed it by chasing the version of himself that was already gone. The pattern is always the same. Desperation chasing costs more than it produces. And the Stoics, 2,000 years before the research, had already identified precisely why. Seneca wrote something in his letters to Lucilius that has not aged by a single day. He who is everywhere is nowhere. He was not writing about geography. He was writing about the man whose energy is scattered across 10 directions at once, who cannot be fully present in any one thing because his anxiety about the outcome has him perpetually somewhere else. That man, Seneca observed, builds nothing of permanence. Not because he lacks the capability, because he is never fully there. Seneca understood this from the inside. He had been one of the wealthiest, most influential men in Rome, and had watched that influence evaporate in a single afternoon when Nero turned against him. He did not spiral. He did not chase what was gone. He wrote. He thought. He built his interior with the same discipline he had once applied to his empire. And from that place of complete interior sovereignty, not from desperation, not from chasing, he produced the work that 2,000 years later we are still reading. Epictetus added the practical instruction. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Not chase the result. Not need the outcome. Decide who you are. Do what that person does. Trust that the direction is correct. And Marcus, who led the most powerful empire on earth from inside the most tested interior any leader has ever had to maintain, wrote the line that anchors everything. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. 3 men, 3 different lives, 1 consistent understanding. The direction of success is not determined by how hard you chase it. It is determined by who you become while you are doing the work. Become the right person. Do the right work. Release the desperate grip on the outcome. Success does not run toward people who are chasing it breathlessly. It walks toward people who are building steadily and trusting quietly. So why does the chasing persist? Why do capable, intelligent, hardworking people, people who can feel the desperation costing them, keep running in the direction that is moving the target further away? 3 mechanisms, each one compounding the others. The first, Desperation has been mistaken for drive. There is a story most ambitious people are carrying about what it means to want something enough. That the depth of your desire is proven by the urgency of your pursuit. That the anxiety, the obsession, the sleepless nights refreshing the results. These are evidence of how much you care. They are not. They are evidence of how much your sense of worth has been attached to an outcome you do not yet control. The person who works hard from peace, who gives everything to the process and genuinely releases the result, is not working less hard. They are working from an entirely different neurological and psychological state. Their decisions are cleaner. Their communication carries more authority. Their presence in a room is different. Because they are not performing desperation. They are demonstrating faith. And faith in yourself, in your direction, in the compounding nature of consistent work, is the most magnetic quality a human being can carry into a room. Desperation repels. Faith attracts. The Stoics were not teaching passivity. They were teaching the difference between these two states and insisting that only one of them actually builds anything. The second, the gap between words and actions, is where success leaks out. Most people have a vision of who they are becoming. They talk about it. They plan it. They describe it in detail to anyone who will listen. And then their daily actions point in an entirely different direction. They say, I am committed to this goal. And then they quit the first time it gets uncomfortable. They say, I believe in myself. And then they wait for external confirmation before they take the risk that actually believing in yourself would require. Every time you say you will do something and then do not do it, you send a message directly to your own subconscious. That message is this: my word means nothing. And a person whose word means nothing even to themselves cannot build anything that lasts. Epictetus, a man who had nothing, who built everything from inside captivity, understood this as the foundational law of any meaningful life. Say what you will be, then do what that person does. Not when the conditions are right, not when the fear is gone, not when the result is guaranteed. Now, with one small action that closes the gap between the words and the behavior. That closing, one action at a time, is what success actually responds to. I want you to think about a seed, not as a metaphor, as a mechanism. When you plant a seed in the ground, the surface looks identical the day after planting as it did the day before. Nothing visible has changed. And if you did not understand how seeds work, if you judge the process only by what you could see on the surface, you would conclude that nothing is happening. You would dig it up, walk away, try something else. But underground, quietly, invisibly, beyond the reach of your impatience, that seed is doing everything. Building roots, establishing structure, preparing for growth that will eventually break through the surface in a way that cannot be ignored. Your work is the seed, the waiting period, the season when the numbers are not moving, when the recognition is not coming, when the world is not yet confirming your effort. That is not empty time. It is the root system being built. The Stoics called this period the proving ground, not of your results, but of your character. Marcus asked himself one question in the hardest periods of his reign. What is this season building in me that the easier version of this would not have built? Ask that question the next time the surface looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. The third, and the one that quietly destroys more potential than any other. Most people are building their life inside a prison of other people's opinions. Not making the move because of what might be said. Not starting the thing because of what might be thought. Making the dream smaller, safer, less visible, so that it does not make the people around them uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, commander of 200,000 soldiers, had to write this to himself in his private journal. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. If the most powerful man on earth had to remind himself of this, you are allowed to struggle with it, but you are also capable of outgrowing it. Here is the truth about the opinions you have been managing most carefully. The people whose approval you are most afraid of losing are mostly not thinking about you. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, our tendency to believe we are being watched, evaluated, and judged far more than we actually are. You are worrying about an audience that has largely gone home, and even the ones who stayed. Even the ones who genuinely doubt you. Their ceiling is not your ceiling. Their past is not your future. Their fear, dressed in the language of concern, is not information about your limit. It is information about theirs. Stop letting someone else's limit become your permanent address. Here is what you actually do. Not eventually. Starting tonight. Practice 1. Audit the chasing. Tonight, before you sleep, write down one area of your life where you are operating from desperation, where the checking, the refreshing, the obsessive monitoring of results is running the day. Name it specifically. Then write one sentence. What would the version of me who trusts the process do differently tomorrow? Do that thing tomorrow. One action. From faith instead of fear. Practice 2. Close the gap. Identify one thing you have been saying you are committed to that your daily actions are not yet confirming. One thing. And do the smallest possible version of it before you sleep tonight. Not the full plan. Not the complete overhaul. One page of the document. One call you have been avoiding. One decision you have been deferring. Epictetus did not teach grand transformation. He taught the daily, unglamorous act of making your behavior match your stated identity. One action. Tonight. Practice 3. The morning inoculation. Tomorrow morning, before the phone, before the news, before any input from the outside world. Spend 2 minutes doing what Marcus did every single day. Remind yourself of what is coming. People will doubt. Results will be slower than expected. The gap between effort and outcome will feel unfair. You have already accepted this. You are already prepared. And none of it, not the doubt, not the delay, not the unfair distribution of visible results, is sufficient reason to stop building. Practice 4. One decision from your own standard. Today, before this video ends, identify one decision you have been making from the imaginary audience inside your head. One move you have not made because of what might be thought or said. Make it, not for performance, not for the story, because Marcus understood and spent an entire reign proving that the person who acts from their own settled standard rather than the crowd's shifting approval is the only person who builds something that actually lasts. That man from the beginning of this video, the one who walked out of the office with no backup plan, no savings, no guarantee. He did not succeed because he got lucky. He did not succeed because he worked harder than everyone around him. He succeeded because he stopped doing the one thing that was quietly guaranteeing his failure. He stopped chasing from a place of desperation. He stopped letting the gap between his words and his actions tell his subconscious that his own word meant nothing. He stopped building inside the prison of other people's approval. And he stayed in the ground, through the weeks with no money, the weeks with no results, the weeks where every voice around him said, turn back, until the roots were deep enough to hold what came next. Seneca wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The man who is chasing from desperation, refreshing, monitoring, obsessing, is nowhere, fully present in nothing, building momentum in no direction. The man who decides who he is, does what that person does, releases the grip on the result, and trusts the season he is in. That man is everywhere he needs to be, fully there, fully building, fully becoming. You are not behind. You have never been behind. You have been running in a direction that success does not travel. Turn around. Build steadily. Trust quietly. Close the gap between your words and your actions one decision at a time. And stop waiting for the surface to confirm what is already growing underneath. Subscribe to the Inner Citadel. This is where the work gets done, one video at a time, for the people who are building steadily and trusting the season they are in. I'll see you in the next one.